Hi, so originally I did this as a recording, like I read this with my actual voice and everything, but then Audacity sort of just fucked up and shut down. So yeah, I'm not doing that again. So I'll just have to do, for now I'll just do speak only or some other text to speech. Kinda sucks, but and as you can tell I'm not really reading off a script, so yeah. I hope you enjoyed the story anyways, despite that. Maybe some other time I'll do an actual reading of it. Oh well.
Hello. I'm a big fan of video games. What some would call a gamer. Especially of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. I mostly enjoy the classic games on the Sega Genesis, but I do enjoy some of the newer stuff too. As well as some fan games and hacks. Don't worry, this is all relevant to the story. So I played this fascinating fan game a while ago. I'm not sure who made it. And I barely remember what the website I found it from was called. One day, while browsing the web as I do, I found this pretty odd website. It was just this one web page. For what it was, it looked pretty nice and decently presentable. In the center of it all was a download link. Being the curious type that I clicked on it. Yeah, I know that probably wasn't the greatest idea, but I couldn't help myself. When the download was complete, I realized this was probably a game. It was called Where's Tails. The icon was a silhouette of Sonic and Tails' heads. The Tails head was a dark gray silhouette. I shrugged it off and clicked the icon. The game started immediately and faded from black into the title screen. It was in the style of the classic games, with sprites and all. But something was way off. As in, well, everything. There was a gloomy background. The emblem was faded looking. And there was no title. Sonic himself looked off. He wasn't doing his iconic finger wag or anything. He was just staring with his concerned look. And there was no music, just the ambient sound of wind. Well, this was certainly different. When I pressed start, there was no name of the zone. It just faded in straight to the level. The level was pretty gloomy looking. It was this dark forest. It looked pretty depressing and kind of unnerving, especially with a lack of music. There was just the same ambient sounds. But this time of the forest. The Sonic sprite had the same concerned look from the title screen. The gameplay was exactly the same as the Genesis games, with all the same movesets. There weren't any enemies or rings. Luckily I already had 15 rings. It stayed like this for a bit. Until I got to this particular big tree. There was some dark silhouette that sped by, but it went too fast for me to know what it was. But while I was confused, I noticed something on the big tree. It had some faint writing on it. It just said, "Why?" After that, nothing strange really happened for a while. Then at some point another silhouette showed up, fading and following Sonic, and then disappearing not long after. It looked like Tails. But then, just as I had that thought, Sonic stopped. Tails was just there laying on the ground. He walked slowly towards him, but then he vanished. I continued through. Again. Seemingly nothing happened again, but then something was following Sonic. It was Tails. But he looked different. He looked a lot more pale than usual, with shoes that were a dark and exaggerated color, and his eyes were all black. Like they weren't there, and he didn't seem to have a mouth either. He was just following Sonic the whole time, similar to how he did in the classic games. But it felt off-putting this time. Like it felt familiar but also off. Did something happen to Tails? Or is this some kind of clone? Or an illusion? This continued until there was this bridge. He vanished and Sonic stopped at the middle of it. Then the shadowy versions of Tails appeared. Sonic jumped down, most likely in a panic. He landed on a rocky path. There was a fog surrounding this area. Then this ghostly Tails faded in behind him. Sonic tried to kick him, but he vanished again. Then he appeared floating. Now it was a boss battle versus this seemingly corrupted version of Tails. These were his attack patterns. First he raised these shadowy spikes from the ground rapidly wherever Sonic is standing. A sound plays just before they rise. Then a shadowy, spiked walls would implode from one side back to the other. Then Tails would lower a bit and start to fire shadowy energy spheres from his hand while moving left and right. This is the point where he can be attacked. It was a little difficult, but I managed to defeat him. Afterwards another cutscene played. Sonic was in a stance, and while the ghost Tails was lying there. Then he turned into how Tails normally looks. It faded to black, and then came back showing Knuckles. He was standing next to the Master Emerald. He then put his hand on it and transported to the rocky path of the forest. The camera moved to where Sonic was. His face was more sympathetic looking when he saw him. Sonic was on his knees crying. He must have realized Knuckles was there because he got up and quickly ran away. Knuckles followed after him, and then the screen slowly faded to black. I thought the game ended there, but it then went back to a scene of Sonic and Tails. They were in Scrap Brain Zone for some reason. Sonic ran off. Then the level began playing as Tails. This must be a race, I assumed. So I went through as quick as I could. There weren't too many obstacles luckily, so it wasn't too difficult to get through. Something strange happened as I expected at this point. When I got to this one room, it was like a long hallway, and before I got out, there was a door that closed in front of me, and when I went back, it was closed there too. Tails' face became panicked. I had no idea what to do. I just continually went back and forth. But then something was falling down from above. A spiked ceiling came down, and when it got to Tails, the screen went to black and the game just shut off. I didn't know what to think at first. I found it to be quite an interesting experience playing this game, though at the time I had no idea what the creator had intended. I admit to not being the best at puzzle solving, but I did eventually piece together what the whole game was about. But I will leave it up to you.